Hi everyone, welcome. I'm out here in my backyard and I've made reference to this door here a number of times in the past. It's that unusual back door into my house which leads to nowhere. It was at one point set up, I believe, to be the access to the upstairs apartment after the house had been converted from a single family home into a two-family home. And then it was subsequently retired because another staircase, not stairwell, but staircase was built outside, and another access to the upstairs apartment was created. But this is where I keep my outdoor, well, I put outdoor in quotes anymore because it used to reside outdoors, but for a while now it's been indoors due to a freeze scare, and I just haven't even checked in on it over a month now. So let's get these guys outside where there's a little bit more light and we'll be able to check in on them, see how they're coming along. I'm not going to be out here for long because it's windy and it's chilly. So before we get started, let me just really quickly share a few little stats about the system with you. And basically the system is now 209 days old. It's funny, 9 days ago when this thing was 200 days old, I was busy celebrating 100 days old in another of my systems, not realizing that on that same exact day this system out here had reached its 200 days old. So sorry, Ben, we meant to recognize that as a milestone day for this system, but we totally overlooked it, and well, whatever, 9 days later, happy belated 200th day in service. So now a couple other informational bits here. 66 days since this system received its 15th and last feeding, and it's actually been half that time, 33 days now, since we last checked in on it. In between those 2 points in time, there was the whole incident of the bag getting frozen all over the top and around the sides. I had to pierce it with a metal tool to get in at the inside of it, leading me to take the bin into the stairwell. So I did review a couple of my previous videos on this system to refresh my memory since it's been so long since we last checked in on it. And one thing I was really interested in was like, how does the material look at day 66 days ago when it received its last feeding versus 33 days ago when we last checked in on it? Because now 33 days later it would be a possible measure for seeing possibly a similar amount of breakdown. Although, you got to factor in the cold temperatures that this bin has endured lately and other variables. And, I got to tell you, when we last checked in on this thing not when we last checked in on it, but when we checked in on it to give it its last feeding 66 days ago, it seemed to me like there were way more worms in it than the last check-in 33 days ago. And like I said, in between those two check-ins had been that freeze. So I don't know if what really ended up happening here was maybe we lost a good number of our worms. I'm not sure. Oops, I'm just picking these little labels out as I spot them. There were two pretty good size bits of leftover food when we last checked in here. I mean, I do remember even these pieces of asparagus that were leftovers when the last feeding went in here. None of the things that were part of the last feeding 66 days ago, I believe, are remaining. There were stuff like tomatoes and frozen vegetable scraps. There was a lot of stuff put in here that wouldn't last. But even then, there were some things that at that point were already around for weeks that are possibly even still in here now. And one of them was an apple, and I think we all know how apples do in composting bins, but there was also this. I believe this is the outer skin of the kiwi. There had been a frozen kiwi and a frozen apple placed into this system at the same time, and I believe 66 days ago, a little bit over 2 months ago. At that point I had already acknowledged the fact that they had been in the system for at least 6 weeks at that point. So, many weeks later, months later, this is the kiwi. And I think what helped the kiwi last so long was that its outer skin just never got breached for the longest time. But that's so cool how they've kind of stripped and nibbled away all of the fleshy part of the fruit, leaving just that. This is like a little chunk of a corn cob. I gotta tell you though, just in general, from picking through the material, the little bit that we've done so far, it does seem like there's many more castings in here. And that was kind of what I was hoping that the payoff would be, of keeping these little guys indoors, give them, you know, a little bit more warmer temperatures than they'd get if they were just outside in the freezing cold winter temperatures. So it does seem like they've done a terrific job. I mean, just pouring through this material in general, you know, last time we checked in, we would pick some of this stuff up and there would not be so many castings yet. There'd be just huge amounts of leftover bedding bits and food chunks and whatever. So it does seem like they've done a heck of a job working this stuff down. That to me seems amazing, that there's like a leaf almost intact. I mean, maybe it somehow slipped in here during a later stage check-in or something, but how on earth something like that lasts? I mean, I could see a peach pit like this lasting forever. So this is pretty cool. I think one thing that might have helped a little bit last time was that I blended in a lot of the material that was out here on the outer edges, and that moistened a lot of that stuff. You can see it does get a little bit dry. It does seem to lose some of its moisture out here on the outer edges due to the fabric material. And I think we even made comments during recent check-ins that the material in here was plenty damp, and we contemplated adding moisture, but we didn't. I think I'm not going to mix in any of the dry stuff. I'd like to allow the middle portion to remain nice and damp and cozy for them without exceedingly drying it out by blending in any of the other stuff. Maybe at some point in the future I'll add moisture, but right now I just didn't come up here with my spray bottle or anything like that. I was just curious to see how things are coming along, and it does seem like things are progressing nicely. Some of our helper creatures in here. I saw other types of helper creatures scattered in here too, but these black soldier fly larvae are some of the helpers. I think I saw some pill bugs. There's another peach pit. This stuff is really coming along nicely, I've got to say. There's some worms in here too. I wonder if there's like certain little sections where the worms are kind of congregating to take advantage of possibly greater amounts of moisture or possibly some leftover foods, or are they just kind of scattered all over the place at this point? You know, there's not going to be a lot of leftovers, that's for sure, after 66 days since the last feeding. Here too, chunk of paper, a big wad of paper that's not going anywhere because it's just clumped together. You know, I've thought about maybe returning this bin to being outside. This way the rain can fall on it, stuff like that. But I'd really rather just keep the temperature a little bit warmer in here so that the worms can continue their work. And I do believe that adding moisture at this point would probably be beneficial too. So rather than just skipping it and saving it for later, maybe it would make sense for me to shoot down to the wormery and grab my water bottle. This way we can moisten the system up a little bit, and then at the same time we could actually blend in some of the drier things, and that I bet would yeah, I'm sure of it, that I bet would help a lot to help this system continue on with its foraging. So why don't I do that? Quick break, head down to the wormery, get my squirt bottle, and then we'll proceed. Bottle's all pumped up, ready to go. So any dry material we encounter, might as well dampen it right there on the spot. So let's dig deep. I'm just going to pull out as much as I can, going down as far as I can. At least it'll give us a little glimpse into how things lower are coming along. I mean, there's stuff in here that the worms would not be able to break down for quite some time, you know, peanut shells and stuff like that. So there is going to come a time when it would make good sense to maybe do what a lot of people I see doing these days is they run all their material quickly through a screen, collecting all the nice castings mingled between the bits and pieces of stuff that's going to take forever, and then at that point they got castings in hand ready to go, and then they could, you know, put all the other stuff that needs more time right back into service, let the worms keep working on it. And that sounds like it might be a terrific option for this system right here. And I can see a lot of this stuff actually outliving the life of the bin, all these peanut shells and stuff. There's things in here that'll definitely break down soon at this pace if what we're seeing here continues, because they're doing such a nice job here. But I wouldn't want to leave them stuck with stuff that they can't make use of, you know. It's like, hey, you know, you got chunks of peanut shells left, why are you feeding them, or what are you worried about? Well, you know, that's the sort of thing that they probably can't make use of, you know. There it is, but as much as they would like to eat it, if they can't, then they can't, you know. It's just one of those things that does not seem to break down in a worm bin, or at least not in any of my systems. Or at least, you know, I don't want to say that, because to say it won't break down is probably not true either. I'm just thinking that it's on a time scale that's, you know, much longer than my typical worm bins. Alright, so this dampening is, I think, going to do wonders for this system. This was probably the main reason I wanted to check in here. I was really growing concerned about the ability of this fabric bag to hang on to its moisture, and it does seem to me like what we're doing here was almost crucial to help things continue nicely. I think if we had left it, it would have kind of been protected on its own deep within the core of the material, where things were still kind of nice and damp. But you know, what we're doing here is we're dumping in a good bit of moisture at this point, moistening all the stuff that was starting to look a little bit too dry, hopefully increasing overall worm activity. And I'm sure that we'll still have a section of the system down deep within its core, which will continue to maintain its moisture level a lot better than the outer edges. The outer edges will still be subject to ongoing drying. So we'll just do what we can to counteract it and help with the breakdown process. All right. I'm not sure if I need to add a whole lot more, but it does feel like it's going to do them good. Maybe I can finish off our video here just by trying to return some of these castings stuck to my glove back into the bin before we cover up here. I mean, anything that's, you know, been around as long as this piece of asparagus just simply needs time, you know. There was part of it that they could eat pretty quickly, and there's part of it that's going to take more time, you know. So I could see running this stuff through a sifter, capturing all those large chunk things that still need more time, and letting them continue with it, and then just removing all the castings that are all going to be good for gardening. All right, everyone, well, I think we're done here, so I'll take care of getting things put away after we cover up, but I'm not going to waste much more of your time. I think the bulk of today's check-in is complete, making sure that everything in here is humming along, which it is, and also making sure that things are not drying out excessively. I mean, they were, but that's been remedied now, so I think we're in good shape. So that's it for the video, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go, and if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.